Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here with the System Simplified podcast, where we interview top entrepreneurs, founders, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And this podcast is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group. At Business Success Consulting Group, we create custom processes and tailor-made business systems so businesses can thrive and grow. All right, and today's guest is Chad Gill. Hello, Chad.
Hello. Howdy, how are you?
Good. Great to have you on the podcast.
Well, yeah, it's good to be seen.
Yeah. So Chad is the founder and owner of Concreate and Field Recon. We're going to talk about those companies. And Chad, not only he's a client, he's also a great friend, and we work awesome together. And I'm so excited to have you on the podcast and talk about processes, procedures, about your app, about how you do it as an entrepreneur, because I think you're such an inspiration that I would like other entrepreneurs to listen to so they can get inspired and do more.
Yeah, that would be good. I can tell you a ton of ways not to do it. I know I'm qualified at that.
That's right. And one thing that Chad definitely has is a great sense of humor. So I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy that as well. Right. So Chad, tell us, let's start with your story. You have an amazing story, how you grew up, you loved construction, and then you went to school, you had your realization that you want to open your own business. Tell us the story.
Yeah, so my dad was a workaholic, so he owned his own business. He was he worked a lot. My mom was an amazing mother. And then they made it to some of the sporting events and stuff like that. But I do remember, we grew up on a farm. I don't know why. I mean, the more successful my dad got, the more things he made for himself to work. He just loves to work, and I guess that's a good thing. So when I left the farm, got Virginia Military Institute for college because I didn't think I'd make it at a regular college. I didn't know if I had the discipline for it. So chose a military college. It was fantastic for me. I loved it. I mean, it just, it's great. Came out of there with mechanical engineering, went into nuclear machine design. So I did a lot of robotics and stuff like that, and ran crews 6 months of the year, and 6 months of the year did actual machine design. So it was great. It was a wonderful job, but I traveled so much. So when my wife and I had kids, we knew we weren't going to travel, and I didn't really like hanging out with engineers all the time. So went to a consulting firm. They in turn wanted me to travel. I didn't want to travel. So my wife said, you can do anything you want. Just don't go work for your dad. So I went and worked for my dad for a little while, and that was terrible. That was such a bad idea. Because, I was a super smart kid that knew everything my dad did wrong. And my dad was like, here's that same stupid kid that left the farm. So that didn't work out as well as I would have liked. Eventually started my own company, which is, not what I wanted, honestly, but it ends up being something that I have truly loved. And then just nicks and bumps and scrapes all the way along the way. And then, just kind of stepping in potholes and asking people in front of me to help me move obstacles, and, try to tell people behind me, hey, don't do that. I've already done it. You don't have to do that. So yeah, it's it's the entrepreneurial kind of way of going about, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now you have Concreate.
Right. So we have a concrete polishing company, and then that spawned Field Recon, which is a software tracking app that we created because in running a company and with field crews and stuff like that, we needed a way to simple things. How do I tell the guys where the job is, what time to be there, who to talk to when they get there? It was just conveying simple information, and that was so desperation became the genesis for Field Recon. And,
yeah, absolutely. I work with a lot of contractors, and finding the right software, it's challenging because there are softwares out there, off the shelf softwares, but then, creating your own is always it is the dream, because then you can really, you can customize it to what you need. So what, if you have, like right now, let's say there are contractors that are listening to us and they're thinking, yeah, I'd like to have my own custom software. Now you use your software, you actually sell it to other contractors, right? I mean, it's a subscription-based software.
It is. Everybody chases that all-in-one software package. There are better softwares out there than mine. I mean, hands down. But they are so intricate that our target market is a smaller contractor. That we're not after $20 million a year contractors and above. We're looking for the guys who are under 7 or 8 million a year. What you're looking for is field crews that our workforce is people who may not speak English as their first language. They may not, they've got different levels of education and stuff like that. So, but by gosh, they can post on Facebook. They know how to do that. They have a cell phone, and that same methodology is what we based our tracking and our management software on. Is to be, I wanted them to be easy. My dad is actually kind of my target market. He owns a swimming pool business now. And I wanted his crews and him to be able to interact with this in a way that he understood. I'd introduced him to Ted Lasso. My dad's like, "This is a great movie." I'm like, "This is not a movie, Dad." But that was the way that he thinks and he looks at things. And that's who I use to kind of test out my theories on, to make sure that it's easy to operate. And also, I love data, but you can get paralysis by analysis. If you pull too much data, you can't do anything with it because you want to do everything. So we just pick small pieces and say, just use this in the beginning and then add to it over time. And that patience has paid off for our customers, because early on, that's what we did. We sold everybody. We're like, look at all the things it'll do. And they're like, I want it all, because everybody does. But I was like, actually, you'll save a lot of money if you just clock in and out here and give the guys a way to get a map, because it's expensive for 4 guys to ride around a box truck for 40 minutes looking for a building. And then, a couple months later, let's do something else. Let's add one more piece and one more piece. That's been a successful approach.
Oh, for sure. So let's talk about the different aspects of the software. Like, what can the software do?
So time tracking is kind of table stakes. You have to be able to do time tracking. So if you're doing paper-based time cards, you're losing a lot of money, not because people are stealing from you. It's just inadvertent. What time did you get here today? I got here at 7. Well, you didn't really get here at 7. You got here at 7:13. And if you take 13 minutes times 4 guys times 8 days, and whatever excess you have, it's always in the overtime, because anything you take off reduces your overtime if you run overtime. And if you're in construction, you're not running overtime, I don't know what you're doing, because we're busy. But so it adds up very, very fast. So you could just clock time. And so now what you're doing is you're saying, okay, when you clock in, let me get your GPS location and compare it to the address of the job. And guys like, man, that's kind of big brother-ish, or, maybe big sister-ish. I don't know. Big sister would be different. I think there's more engagement from big sisters. But it's but it's not always about, I want to know where you are when you clocked in. It's also, I'm trying to protect you, because when the general contractor says your guys didn't even get here until 10 o'clock today, I can pull up and say, no, at 9:13 they rolled in on the job site. The problem is you had the gates locked, or you just didn't see them, or maybe you weren't there and you're just giving me a hard time. It allows me to tell them that, I get a complaint of, hey, your people ran me off the road. I don't think they really did, because they're in Maryland today and I've got a GPS signal that'll tell you that. So our insurance guy likes it. Our bonding agent likes it. Our lawyer, I wish I didn't even have a lawyer, but you have to have a lawyer. They like it because of that accountability. And then it's also good for going back to crews. So time tracking, kind of easy one. Job details, who do you talk to? What are you there to do? What is the purpose of it? Where are you going tomorrow? The schedule. We schedule our crews out. So we have a monthly view calendar that says, oh, here's the jobs we're doing this month. And then each individual has a home screen on their mobile that says, here's where you are today, here's where you've been the last 2 weeks, and here's where you're going for the next week.
Right.
That makes it a lot better for the crews because nobody likes finding out Friday they're going out of town on Monday. The only thing worse than that is finding out Sunday you're going out of town Monday. That's then it happens. So as the job details, those kind of things, then it starts to get into, we have an equipment tracking portion of it where you say, okay, what of my equipment is damaged? What needs repair? What was the repairs that were done? What kind of oil goes in that machine? Do I have any of that oil here? What other machines does that oil go into? Little connecting pieces that work that way they're real small problems, but when you add them all up, it's the headache that takes you out of your flow. And that's what we're trying to do is keep people in that sweet spot of solving problems one at a time that are what you got into business for. I didn't get into business. I got into business to polish concrete. I mean, sort of. But, I definitely didn't get into business to pay taxes. I didn't think I did. The government thinks that's why I'm in it. But, I didn't get into business to do human resources. I didn't get into business to track time. I want to focus on the stuff that I really started the company for. And so we're trying to find ways to get that, kind of brokered out. Once you start going, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying you're definitely a great example of using automation in order to run your business better, right? In terms of using, as you said, you didn't get into business to do the other business side. You got into business in order to practice the trade and make sure that you are providing good products and good services for your customers. But then there is all the other things that go around, and that is inevitable as a business owner. So the use of automation is very important in order to be able to grow the operation and make sure that you can do more and more and to scale. Because scaling is not necessarily working more hours in the business. Scaling is being able to grow your business while increasing profit, but without you having to work harder.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not going to say that humility is one of my best traits, but I will tell you that you can't, the first thing you need to do is get yourself out of the way of your people. And if anybody's taught me that, that's you. It's if you can get yourself to not be the roadblocks, and that's through documented processes, then now you're free to go do more of what you love. And if more of what you love is within your company, fantastic. If more of what you love is outside of your company, fantastic. But now, more joy is better. So you can go and do those kinds of things. And then it feels so selfish to say, I want to do that so I can get away. But really what you're doing is you're freeing your people to say, here's what your job is, because who wants to go to work and not know what their job is? That mystery doesn't help anybody, and then if you don't know what your job is, how do you know if you're doing a good job? My
Absolutely.
boss is angry today. I don't know. Why was my boss angry? I don't know. Could have been a bad day. Maybe he ran out of Percocet. Maybe I really didn't do a good job. I don't know why he's angry, but he's angry. But if you can get to those processes and know what they are, then they're good. And then that's when we took the next step of the recon package is to say, look, okay, so when you get there, what am I supposed to do? So we created a place in the app where you say, okay, it's called Schedule of Values in construction, but we say, okay, here's what I'm here to do. And here's some of it, we even put the cost, and if you get deep in the system, you're using the estimating and costing and stuff like that. So you say, okay, we're at a building, we're doing 4 rooms in that building, and in each room of the rooms, we're doing a series of steps. So you put all of that in the system, and you say, okay, well, room 1, we're doing these 3 steps. And so the guys go in, they look at the app, they're like, okay, I'm in room 1, here's the 3 steps I have to do. And then as they finish the steps, they just swipe a bar and says, hey, I just finished it. In live time, at my dashboard or on my cell phone, I can get a little chirp if I want, or I can just go look. And it says, hey, the guys finished step 1. Step 1 is 12% of the work in that room. They're 12% done in that room. That means they're 7.5% done on that job. And you're like, fantastic. And and it gets even deeper to the idea of that step we budgeted for that step to take 5 man hours. And you've got 6 man hours on the job. We're running a bit behind. That step takes longer than we thought. We'll make a note of that. Or I'll call the guys and say, hey, you're running a bit behind. And then we start to pick up speed. And it's great because then the guys can see they're marking off. So everybody likes marking off a list, and showing what they've gotten done. Superintendent calls me and says, man, you guys haven't done squat. I'm like, oh, that's not true. They've done these 3 things, and they've done these 3 things, and then done this one thing that they really weren't supposed to do. And so it gives me it gives me armor to protect my crews and to take care of the people when we get, some sort of superintendent who's just trying to push, and he does it. They feed on your lack of information. Not that all superintendents are nefarious. I mean, they are, but maybe they're not, but whatever. So, but you just want to set a precedent that says, I know what's going on with my company and I know what's happening with my field. So that way I'm connected. But the guys, they mark all that stuff off. And then at the end of the day, we have a button called an end of the day shift in log. Thanks to you, we put a checklist. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Everybody's clocked in. Does everybody get per diem that day if it's an out of town job? Yes. Okay, good deal. Submit it. And then the next day, our PM goes in, checks the end of the day shift log, compares it to what they say the work got done. And then we keep on going for the next one. It doesn't make everything run smooth. We're not a silver bullet for, rain and clouds and mud and stuff like that happens on job sites. But we are a way to document it. And that document becomes a massive amount, a trove of protection that allows, I think, a friend asked me, he goes, so does it help you? I was like, well, yeah, if you take photos of every job you do, then 90% of the time you're going to get 80% of your money. And in construction, you're way ahead of the curve.
And that's a big deal on the app, is the ability to take photos and upload them right there. And that is what you taught your crew to do, is to take a lot of photos. So, and it's very simple, very easy to do. And that is so important in construction, as you said, for various reasons, for the quality control, risk mitigation, learning from it, etc. So that app definitely handles that. And it allows the crew leader or the foreman to see what was actually done at the end of the day, because you have the pictures right there.
Yeah, I mean, that photo documentation, I even kind of glazed over it. That's in the first level of what we do, is posting those photos. It does a couple of things. It allows you to compliment the guys. Say, hey, man, that looks good, because you can put it right on that photo. They get a chirp that says you saw what they're doing. They know they're being recognized. But we get calls from a superintendent like, hey, I get here at 6 a.m. I leave at 9 p.m. I don't even go to the bathroom. I just absorb it. I haven't eaten in 3 weeks. And your guys have never cleaned this floor. I'm like, man, I feel certain that they can clean the floor. So I scroll through my little feed of photos. It's like every job ends up with a gallery of photos that are updated every time somebody posts. And I see a couple of pictures of a guy on an auto scrubber multiple days riding around that floor. And damn, if in the background of one of those pictures is the superintendent I'm on the phone with. So I download that picture. I sent it to him. I was like, see, that's you. That's my scrubber. And yes, that's my employees. I don't know if you're in the middle of your absorption phase or something, but we're cleaning your floor, dude. And you get all kinds of, and it turns, I mean, we've saved, to say a picture's worth 1,000 words, a picture is worth $10,000. Because if you can say, hey, when we left, here's a picture of the job site we left. See that big picture window? See how it's not broken? That's us leaving, And then you come in the next day, here's a picture. Hey, well, we got here. Here's a picture of your window and it's broken. We didn't do that. That helps. Broken sheetrock, leaks and things like that. We had one situation where we took photos of a job site when we left and all of our equipment was there and then something was stolen. And they're like, I think you never had it here. I'm like, well, we had a picture of it. And the photo and the user can't change the pictures. This all runs on the force.com platform. So it's a massive platform. It's what Salesforce runs on, so it's huge and it's government security level. So when you upload that photo, there's none of this, oh, well, we think you photoshopped in that, we can't do it.
Right.
And you got it.
So Chad, this is like an amazing app. So again, it can do the time tracking. It can walk the labor in the field throughout everything that they have to do step by step, and also allows the management in the field to manage, but not only in the field, you can see it also in the office in terms of the project manager. It just gets everybody in communication, upload the photos, get the guys in the field and they know what they need to do. You can see it, the foreman, the crew leader. It just creates this massive communication and automation that allows you to run the job much smoothly. And because of that, you can save on personnel, you can get better quality, and that obviously leads to profitability. So how customizable is the app? So if we have a contractor listening to us right now and they want to talk to you about it, is it something that can be customized?
Yes, so you can customize it to any degree that you want. If you're like, hey, I want to track man hours, I want to track, expenses. We do that. We have an expense entry section where you upload receipts and they apply to the job. It's kind of like when people ask me, like, yeah, but my business is different than your business. Yeah, but we're all in business and we're doing services for people. Would I recommend this to a chiropractor? No, because I don't know anything about chiropractic, or even if that's a word. But it's about people that have crews in the field that are doing work that you want to. So if you're a painter, if you're maybe you're a landscaper that's working in residential applications, we have people that do that. We have a tool rental company that uses it. There's a lot of different applications for it, and we can tailor down to the field level. You can say, hey, I want my crew leader to be able to clock everybody in, but I want my crew to only be able to clock themselves in. I want my project manager to see how much money that we have on the job, but I want my crew leader to only see the man hours, and I want my crew to, see the address. So field by field, we can assign, access and stuff like that. You can create a custom portal for the customer if a customer wants to follow it. Just to be careful about what you put in it. We use it for internal communication, so there's some profanity and stuff like that in it because we just do. But it's we shouldn't, but we do. So you want to be careful what you share, but you can create access points for different people and different components of it. So it's very, very customizable. And I'm the worst one to talk about that because all I want to do is customize it, make it great for people. But the best thing to do is to start with the very entry level part. Get good at that. Make it help your employees. Make it replace some paperwork they're doing. Your shift in log can be whatever you want. If you have a paper system that works, perfect. You're an ideal customer because we're just going to make that automated. That makes your employees like it, which means they'll use it. Then you can add more complexity as things go. Gamify it. You can do best picture of the week and those kinds of things. We're always trying to find a way to motivate field crew, and that was one of the things we would do. Best picture of the week, and we give a gift card. That way, we got a lot of photos, and so it worked out really well.
Wow, that's incredible. So, if people want to get a free demonstration, how do they get a hold of you?
So workforcerecon.com is the website. You can reach out to me through there. We can set you up on a 30-day trial. That's pretty easy to do. And then typically we just tell people, hey, pick a project that's coming up. It's going to last about a week, something like that. We'll get you some employees in there and then just document that. Just put the photos in there. See the ease of it. You clock in and out on that job for a week. You document the photos of the job of the week. We've got you. It's not even fair. It's at that point, you're like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to know what my people are doing. Okay, that's great. Then we'll add the things that we actually built the software for, which is the process tracking. The things that everybody use it for were kind of like add-ons because we knew we needed it to get people to commit to it. They're good, they work great, and they're the things that make it the most popular. But after that is when you start to see some power that gives you some management. But you have to clear that other stuff off the deck so you have a moment to look at it. That's you have to be able to step back to be able to kind of lean in and look and go, okay, then we're good to go. And it does. I couldn't run my company without it. And we see a lot of people that I feel like a drug dealer. It's like first one's free and then you're addicted. But I don't know if we're that good, but we're trying to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that app because we work together in terms of documenting a lot of your processes, and I've seen it in and out on everything that it can do. And I can vouch to the fact that it is amazing. It is absolutely a game changer in terms of automation and in terms of being able to run the work correctly, and also communication to the guys in the field. They feel connected. They feel like they are part of the group. They're not just there in the field doing something, but they're doing the work, but not just the disconnect doesn't exist because you can get that communication by sending the photos, by swiping it that they're there, by entering notes, by it's kind of like live communication that doesn't interrupt by having to somebody calling them and what are you doing, but they can originate that communication.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is like when you call and you talk to me or you talk to somebody in our company, we're not a software company. We're a construction company that has software. We don't. The last time I took code, it was like C+, and I don't even think I think that's like a D-.
I did C++ because I went to engineering school as well. So yeah, I know what you're talking about. So
I don't, to say that you're calling a software company, no, you're not calling a software. You're calling somebody. I'm a trade contractor, and I love being a trade contractor. We're just trying to put out a tool that'll get you paid for being a trade contractor, and that's really what we want to do.
That's right. So it's one trade contractor to the other. That's, if you're a contractor and listening to this, definitely go to that website, and it's going to be in the podcast note as well. So give us the website again.
It's workforcerecon.com.
Workforcerecon.com. Great.
The app is called Field Recon, but if you Google Field Recon, you're going to end up looking at a planting system that's centered out of Texas or something like that, where they do seeds and stuff like that,
so that's not bad. It's really workforcerecon.com, and then you learn more about it.
Workforcerecon.com. Perfect.
So Chad, in the last few minutes that we have here, let's talk a little bit about processes. So we are documenting your processes and procedures within your company. And I know that throughout that process of documenting processes, you learned a lot about your company and what you want to do in terms of making it more efficient, right? So tell us about the process of documenting processes and what it does to you as a business owner.
Oh, it's so embarrassing because, when you start documenting processes, for one, we committed to documenting all the processes in our company 2 years ago. And then, we didn't do anything. We tried, we were like, oh, we really will. And until we actually made the investment of hiring somebody to help us do it, that made it so much easier. That's when things went really well. And what we found out right away was, one, we were trying too hard, and working with you made it much easier. And then we found out that, okay, well, we had sort of tribal knowledge, and we thought that everybody, and then we had good people, and we found that these good people were all trying to help each other out. And so I would be helping one person and they would be helping somebody else, and we all thought we were helping them do their job. They thought they were helping us do our job. It was nobody's job. It wasn't assigned. It wasn't documented. We didn't know whose it was. And then you've got 3 people doing it, and they're doing it in duplicate. Simple things like, who checks the mail? Who really does it? And that led to a lot of internal strife, because you don't mind helping out, but when you're busy and you feel like you got to do somebody else's job and they feel like it's your job and you haven't done it, there's a lot of conflict. And then we found that there was things like we were ordering the same product from 2 different places because 2 different people were doing it at separate times. There wasn't we defined a communication plan. Hey, when we talk to a customer, a phone call is great, but nothing happened unless you send a backup email. Okay, well, how do we do that? What is that email going to say? So we had email templates that go out. It's almost intangible things that just make life go a little bit easier. And it was never made more clear to me than when we wrote these processes for the operational side. We put them in place, and I have a remote project manager. He's not even in the country, and he's the best project manager I've ever had. But the only way he can do his job is if I tell him specifically how to do it. And that was through those processes. And then my parents got into some health issues, and suddenly I was pulled away for 3 weeks with a new project manager, 3 crew leaders, a new job that was very big and important to us. All that hit at one point, and I was like, I just can't be here. But they had a set of rules and processes they could go back to, and there was comfort with it. Now we're in the phase of, okay, we did a process, we have a mistake. And so it used to be, whose fault? What do we do? Why did things go that way? Now we're working on making the first thing we say is, did you use the process? And if the answer is no, you didn't use the process. Okay, well, now we've got a personnel problem. Yes, I used the process. Okay, now we got a process problem. From that process problem, which is what you hope you have, because it's easily fixed. You can go into it and say, okay, what about this process didn't get the job done? And we ran into one of those even this week. It's like, why is it that we didn't do it? Well, the process said, call the guy and tell him we're going to be there on Monday. Well, that's great. The process needs to say, call them now, send follow-up email. Here's the template for the email. That's what the process says now. And that, it just kind of takes those death of 1,000 cuts away. And it's kind of like we're talking about the software, moving the static out of the way to get to the things that are real job problems that are unavoidable. But finding those avoidable ones like that, it's been embarrassing. I mean, strategic coach talks about the gap and the gain. You're supposed to look at the gain, how far you've come. But my nature is to look at the gap, and we do all these processes. And I cannot believe for 21 years I've been doing it the wrong way. But instead of saying for the next few years we're going to be doing it the right way.
Exactly, and and it's also, I always tell my clients, if you're successful, you've done a lot of things right. There are a lot of things that are correct in terms of your processes. It's just that they weren't documented, so it's hard to give it to others and really get them to understand it, right? So then every person develops their own way of doing things. So what you're doing is you're basically creating a uniformity. You really identify what are the important processes. It's kind of like, it's like differentiating between what's important and what's not important, and putting that together and documenting it, and then get others to actually follow. And the way you describe it, I couldn't have described it better myself in terms of the people process elimination and making sure that it's followed by all. So one more question. Go ahead. Sorry.
It has a soft side. It is funny because as an engineer, I want to do things as a, I love robotics because they don't come in late, they don't show up drunk, they don't do the things that people do. But it is amazing the culture change you get when the people that work with you realize that you know what you're doing and they know what they're doing and they know what you want from them. Your culture changes. So while I don't understand people and I'm not in touch with my feelings nearly as much as I was supposed to be, it suddenly makes it this bridge where you can communicate and say, oh man, you know what? I know what to do. And there's so much comfort in it, so much, self-confidence driven by your people. So yeah, it has a huge soft science effect that it's hard to quantify.
For sure. Well, Chad, thank you so much for joining this podcast and for giving us all this knowledge and your expertise and your experience. And I'm sure our listeners learned a lot from this podcast. And I really hope they go to your website and check out the software, the app, because I know it can make a difference. So thank you again for being a guest on this podcast.
Thank you, Annie. I really appreciate you just working with us. Oh my gosh. Life-changing. It was fantastic. So I really appreciate your help.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.